for you.
Jake, would you get me just a touch?
There's just a touch left, so for the two of us.
Yeah. If you don't mind.
What's up, Patreon?
What's up, Patreon?
What's up, Patreon?
Jake was just telling us a really fun story about some of his favorite music. So if you ever see him in person, ask him about that.
Yeah. Ask him about specifically blues music and pastries.
Yeah. Ask him if anyone's going to steal his.
Oh man. Well, we're making our way through Spooktober.
Yeah. We're into week 2.
Week 2, Zach's week. It follows.
My week.
You switched on us.
I did. I originally had What We Do in the Shadows was one that I was going to do, which patrons, if you haven't seen that movie, it's a good fun time. Halloween
I was
movie.
looking forward to it. I was kind of bummed when you switched.
I told Remy that he would like it. And I think he would, because he doesn't like scary things at all.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely not scary.
No. And I think he
Although I would say the same about It Follows, to be honest.
Yeah, but this is more, it is a comedy. What We Do in the Shadows.
And It Follows, I think, would scare Remy.
Really?
I think so. I mean,
because I hate scary movies.
Yeah.
And this was almost comical to me.
We'll get into it, but
I'm glad I'm glad that that was your experience. I feel like that was a good trauma experience for you, like a good trauma reaction. Was denial.
I'll say I just don't know what was supposed to be scary.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So like this entity that like is eventually going to try to kill you, you just be like,
that moves at like a half a mile an hour that you can fight apparently.
Yeah, but you can't kill it.
Maybe
they didn't.
You don't know that. It doesn't say that.
There's enough for you to have more.
It clearly shows that they didn't kill it.
Thank you, Jake.
How?
I don't think
just because the person was following him at the very end.
I think it's. Let's talk about it on the pod.
For a second, I thought that was thunder until I realized that Jake just came back in and Penny. I forgot Penny existed.
Yeah, I have a new dog. And it's very protective of me. And so anytime any of the guys get up or move or walk towards me in any way, she growls at them.
It's pretty cool.
Jake, say hi to Patreon.
Hi, Patreon.
We told them to have a conversation with you about blues music
and pastries.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about blues music. I really like it.
No, specifically what we were talking about before.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I figured. I heard what was happening when I walked down the stairs.
Okay. All right, let's jump into the next one.
It's gonna follow you. Somebody gave it to me, and I passed it to you. Back in the car. It could look like someone you know, or it could be a stranger in a crowd. Whatever helps it get close to you. It can look like anyone, but there's only one of it.
Help! Help!
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Rotten Potato Podcast, a podcast where four friends sit down and review movies that you absolutely should have seen. I am Zach, and I'm here with three of my good friends discussing Spooktober #2 movie.
I'm Tyler.
I'm Scott.
I'm Jake.
And we are here discussing Spooktober #2 movie. I'm really excited to get into it.
I also just realized you didn't put any of the facts in here for this movie.
So you want to look those? Somebody want to look those up while we do a little vamping.
If I'm quiet for the next few minutes, it's because I'm filling this in. So you guys,
yeah, that's
talk
okay. I think we can vamp.
We'll vamp.
Okay.
Yeah, we got this. Zach, way to go! By the way, on
sorry, I forgot.
Yeah, on doing none of your job.
Can I tell you guys something? I have never filled in the sheet. Somebody's done it for me. Like this year I looked, I was like, I should probably do that. And then it's just done. So I assume it was Scott. Because that's the kind of thing.
Zach's done it before
I think
too.
it was either me or Zach.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
I've done it in the past where I was like at work and it was a slow day and I'm like, I'm just gonna do this. I'm kind of interested to see what these facts are. Anyways,
I appreciate you doing it for me. I'm gonna have to do it this year, probably.
So I think Tyler, I've done more than my job in the past.
I mean, I've done more of them than you have.
I know, but you said I did 0 of them.
I've done less of them. I've done less of them than anybody. I'm the only one that's actually
That's
done 0
true.
of them.
Jake has done 0 of his job. Zach, you've done some.
It's not my fault. It's not that I'm not willing to do it. It's just, we're several months away from next season. So I had time and then all of a sudden it's done for me.
So what you're saying is it's not that you have no interest in doing it. It's just that the three of us are more interested in this podcast than you are.
Maybe more interested in fact gathering.
I think what I'm hearing is that Jake deserves 0 financial compensation.
That's what I'm hearing
for his
too.
participation.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's what
that
I'm
just
hearing
so
too.
like if we have a job, like you and I both have a job, and then you just go ahead and decide to do my job before I can do my job, you get my money.
You don't deserve to be paid. Yes.
If I am the boss,
That's
yes,
correct.
that is correct.
But what if I was just
What I
like
hear-
sleeping?
What that tells me
You know,
is
like, it's like
this-
nighttime.
I can pay 1 employee to do the job of 2. So I'm
That's right.
But
firing.
you're gonna
Jake.
have to get overtime, and that's more money.
I think he did
I'd
within his
still
normal
be a-
hours.
Yeah.
I think that's. Well, I think that I'd still save money. I think I'm still only paying 1 employee, maybe just a little bit more.
But you're paying 1 employee but you're paying double or time and a half for part of that.
Yeah, but if I'm paying 2 employees, that's double.
It's not though.
It
Because if
could
you're
be.
paying 2 employees, that's 2 people at a regular rate. Let's assume similar rate. But then you get time and a half for that same amount of time.
but I'm saving money because I've fired you.
But you're not saving. But you're paying
You are-
more money
No, you're saving money.
because you have to work overtime.
If I'm
there are
paying-
employment costs associated with each individual employee. So if I can consolidate into 1 employee, I'm actually saving money, even if I'm paying that employee some overtime to compensate.
And plus, now I'm only paying 1 employee benefits, not 2.
Oh, we get benefits for this.
Well, us
well,
3.
we do.
Scott,
Yeah.
we get dental, life insurance, and health.
And
That's pretty
401k
nuts.
matching
hmm
up to 5%, which is pretty
It
good.
comes straight out of Remy's 401k. He matches us.
Does Remy know that?
He
well,
does now.
Yeah, because Scott set it up. Scott set Remy's 401k up.
Yeah, I set Remy's up to forward into all of our accounts, and I set yours up to go just into my account. So I'm kind of triple dipping on money that's not mine.
I see.
Scott, what do you
That's
say?
Smart.
What do you say? First of all, thank you. But what do you say you hit us with a little bit of just the facts?
Yeah, this was directed by David Mitchell.
Scott truly is
Those
a
have
bad
been in there
actor.
for a while, right?
These have been here the whole time.
Yeah.
Written by David Mitchell. Released March 15th, 2015. Runtime of 100 minutes. Rotten Tomatoes gave this a 95%. IMDb gave it a 6.8. So they definitely disagree a little bit on that one. Box office of 21.9 million on a $1 million budget. So you guessed it, 21.9x return. Did not win any Saturns, but did get nominated for Best Horror Picture from the Saturn Awards.
Cool. Well,
Just a reminder for as we get into Spooktober every year, we didn't talk about this last episode, but
Because it actually won Academy
it actually
Awards.
won Academy Awards. But every year in Spooktober, we give honorable mention to the Saturn Awards, which are a part of the Academy apparently, and goes to kind of serve the underserved category of horror because it's just never going to compete with the rest of the Academy. And so they have their own sci-fi and horror awards.
Yeah, and I feel like honestly, there is more often a sci-fi movie that will capture everybody's attention and like actually get an attention at the Academy Awards. But horror, I can think of not very many horror movies that I feel like will get.
It's a very polarizing genre.
Yeah,
Like either you love it or you hate it.
but even the people that love, like, even though like there's a horror movie that everybody loves, it's not going to get Academy Award attention
no, because of all the people
Yeah.
that just hate horror movies.
unless you're like The Shining.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
well, I was talking to Patreon earlier and talking about how I switched my pick from What We Do in the Shadows to It Follows. And what happened was I watched What We Do in the Shadows. Good movie. I like that movie. I wasn't sure if it'd be a very fun episode. Like I mean, we'd quote some funny parts, but sometimes talking about comedy, is not the most engaging content I feel like that we do. And what also happened was I watched The Conjuring and then I watched The Thing. And I was like, I just want to keep watching horror movies. I want to be scared. I like horror movies. And I was really excited about Spooktober. And so I just wanted to pivot. And Tyler had given me the idea to do It Follows a couple weeks back, which was a horror movie that I've seen a few times now and I've always really enjoyed, and I can get into why I enjoy it. And I enjoyed it again this time. I don't think it's the scariest movie by any means necessarily, but there's a lot about it that I do really enjoy, and I think it has some really solid scares. And so I enjoyed my time watching it again.
Yeah, I'd seen this movie before as well, and I I mean, I'm going to make a lot of fun of this movie throughout this episode. But I do think it's a really good movie. I liked it watching it again this time. I wouldn't say that it really like is the most I don't know. Horror is I'm always going to choose distractions when I'm watching a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm always going to have my phone on me so that I can just sort of like cheat away from being scared.
That was my whole experience of The Conjuring.
That's fair. And so sometimes horror movies don't always get my best like full look.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen this, like really truly sat through this before. I think it is like a sufficiently like it's not the scariest movie I've seen, but it's like it's a type of horror that I really like. I really like kind of slow burn type horror films. I'm not a big like slasher fan. I just don't necessarily tend to care about or appreciate those. And I really appreciate the tone and pace of this movie. I think it's incredibly suspenseful.
Yeah, I was a late bloomer to this, hadn't seen it before. Was not scared at all. I thought it was borderline comical at times. There was some like, plot holes. There was some weird decisions made by like the cinematography at times. There was just different things throughout it. I don't know. It wasn't bad. I'm not gonna say this is a bad movie. And I'm not gonna rate it as bad as some of the other things we'd like. I don't think it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre bad. But there was just a lot of things with it that I was like, what? Who does like this a little bit?
This is why I initially wanted to pick a comedy, because
I get
knew, and I stand by this decision because I enjoyed watching this. I think we're going to have a more interesting conversation, but I knew that I'd pick something and that Scott would, that I would completely disagree with everything Scott feels about it.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because like this is probably the only of the four that I'm going to talk like this about.
What do you mean?
Of the four Spooktober pick here, the only was like
More than Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow again than this.
That's fair.
Oh, really?
That's
This was like a nothing movie.
I mean, I just don't
All
understand.
right,
that
let's
idea
real
at
quick.
all.
Let's put a pin in this. I want to hear what Jake thinks.
Actually, pretty hard to agree. I think that of the Spooktober movies, I don't really get scared at scary movies. I think that this may be the most tense and maybe the most scary movie that we've done to date.
Yeah.
I think because to me and maybe to others, the death of fear and like is explanation and resolution.
Yeah.
And I don't think we get either of those things in this movie.
Mm.
And so like in The Conjuring, for example, which we're going to talk about next week, like one, we get our Van Helsing, right, to come and save the day. And at the end of the day, there is resolution and they are saved from this, but you don't know
Right.
if you are safe.
No.
You don't know why this is happening. You don't know what its motivation is. You don't really know anything. And that is scary.
Yeah, I agree.
To me.
Yeah.
And so that is done for those reasons. I think there are a lot of tense moments in this where like, it's just like really tight spaces
Mhm.
and like not any way out from this, like, unstoppable force. And so like it was tense for a moment. I think overall the idea is much scarier for me, and like in a way that would stick with me. like at the end of most horror movies, everything's fine.
Right.
Which is why, like, I forget the name of the movie. Ethan Hawke is in it, and he's like
Sinister.
Sinister.
Oh, yeah.
Sinister is the most disturbing movie. Yeah. And there's some explanation, I guess, but there's no resolution.
Right.
There's nothing they could have done, and that is why that is maybe the most disturbing movie I've ever seen. And so I think that this does more for me, scary wise, I guess, than other movies have, because
Really, really good analysis of this film. I think you summed it up really well. And as you were talking about it, it reminded me of something that I had learned while researching this film, was that the director, David, are you able to look?
That's what it is.
This was inspired by nightmares he had, where there was like a figure that's following him in his nightmare. And he made some really intentional decisions to try to facilitate like a dream-like tone in this movie. And that's why you can't ever really place a date in this film. There's aspects of it that look like it could have been from the 80s or even earlier.
And we just appear in the middle of scenes.
Yeah. And but then there's other scenes where there's more modern technology and whatnot. And exactly like what Tyler said. And I feel like I hadn't really thought about it before, but I feel like by intentionally not revealing too much about this monster or whatnot, that really reinforces that idea of like a nightmare, because we don't have explanations of our nightmares. We don't have resolution. We just appear in them, and then we wake up. And so it's almost like we're just thrown into 5 minutes of a horror movie. And so I feel like that is done well in this movie. And I feel like he was able to facilitate that feeling very well in this film.
I feel like in the car park, like our opening scene, like he just told us the whole exposition.
not really. He told us it's coming for you. It can be these things, and like there's only one of them.
It was
And that's all we know.
It was basically like the training tutorial at the beginning of a video game. It wasn't like the
But there-
exposition of why this is happening.
But we don't get our moment that I feel like you get all too often, where the expert comes in, and
Right.
the expert is like, this is what we're dealing with, and this is how we deal with it.
There's no scene like at the end of Sleepy Hollow where the evil stepmom comes forward and explains everything that was happening behind the scenes.
Right. And then gets her comeuppance.
Exactly.
Right.
And then at the end, there's no real resolution, I don't think. And that is, I think in other stories, it would be frustrating. But if you want people to be afraid, that's part of it. It is frustrating, and those things. And so I think it works in this. I don't know. I feel like this was effective.
I feel like Sleepy Hollow of the four is the only one that has resolution
I think
from this year.
you're 100% wrong.
Yeah, I
You
think you're
The
wrong.
Conjuring does not have a resolution?
I mean, there's a Conjuring 2.
That doesn't
yeah,
have
but-
anything to do with these people. It's following. It's
Sure,
following the
these people
Warrens.
temporarily got out, but like this entity is still there and still looming.
It doesn't have
and,
to do. It's not the same thing.
It's a different.
I've seen
different demon.
3 or 4 of the Conjuring movies.
Okay, well, we'll save Conjuring talk for the Conjuring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
episode.
that sounds like a good call.
I mean, that's like saying Scooby Doo never has resolution because they go on to solve a different
Another
mystery.
mystery. Yeah. I really felt, Jake, I mean, I agree with Zach. I think you perfectly analyzed this movie. I don't even think I'm going to try and like add on to that. But I'll say, like, I felt for sure what you're describing, like the scene in particular that like, yeah, when this has all just happened, and the boy who's in love with her comes over to like spend the night with the sisters. And he's like, you know, downstairs, and she comes down and she can't sleep, and he, like, the brick goes through the window or something like that, and he's like, I'm gonna go run upstairs and wake up your sister. From that moment, I am so freaking tense because I know what's happening, and I'm like screaming internally, like, why did you get into a room where there's only one exit?
I was like, why would you ever go into a second story?
Yeah. And then she runs upstairs, and like, it's like, oh my gosh, all of that entire sequence was so tense for me. Like, I held fear tension that entire time.
Yeah, and I think I forgot to say this. I don't think I hated this movie. Like I've said I hate horror, and I don't know that's true. I think that there's a lot of modern horror I don't like, and I think it's these ghosts and demon movies that I think are like overly gross. Honestly, in a way that I don't like. This wasn't that. I didn't hate it. It's not my favorite movie. But there are a lot of movies where I'm like, I don't know why this movie was made. I see why this movie was made, and I enjoyed it relatively. I guess it wouldn't be something I would pick to put on, but I didn't hate it. Like I hate most, but like there's like gothic horror I really like, or like old horror I really like. So there's a lane for me here, and I still am trying to figure out what it is.
I think that this movie I almost appreciate more just as a film than I do as a horror movie. You know, like if I want to get together with like a group of friends and watch a horror movie, I wouldn't pick this one. There's 5 other ones that I'd pick first because we're not really getting together to appreciate a film. We're getting together to have fun and be scared and maybe whatever it may be. But there's like Scott, you said that there was some weird cinematography choices made. I really like the cinematography in this movie. I really enjoyed the score. There's a lot about this movie that I appreciate the same way I would appreciate other like non-horror A24 movies. And it's a very artistic film in a lot of ways. And I like that about it. And I can kind of unpack this if you guys want me to, but I also feel like this movie is just kind of a vibes movie. Like I just kind of love the vibe of it.
I would love for you to unpack that actually.
There's an aspect of this movie that feels weirdly nostalgic for me. And it's the portion of the film earlier on before they really are starting to kind of investigate what's going on. And then they're trying to, what's so funny, Scott?
Nothing. I had a response that I chose not to say.
Okay.
All right.
It really like reminds me of times I've had when I was like a teenager, just hanging around doing absolutely nothing with some of my friends in their house in their suburban homes, or we're just like sitting around at the park or going on walks. And like it kind of creates like a sense of like this suburban Southern California like childhood that I had that not a lot of movies have been able to emulate for me. And I really like enjoy that aspect of it. And I enjoy these characters a lot. Like I feel like I would have really enjoyed a novelization of this.
Oh yeah, I would too.
I think I enjoyed most of the characters.
Yeah.
I didn't like the guy that was in love with her.
Really?
He was just like so
Simpy?
yeah, and like manipulative, and like I
It's
really
like Zach
felt
for CK.
Yeah.
I really felt like he was like trying to take advantage of her biggest trauma in life so he could sleep with her, and I just couldn't get on board with him because he was like, oh well, like you can give it to me. Like I want you to give it to me.
I feel
Like I'll die for it. Give it to me, please.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I feel like there's a little bit more than that. I feel like it's less like he just wanted to get in her pants and more he wanted to be her savior. And
I
her
don't-
like Prince Charming.
If that was true, he wouldn't have hated the guy that did save her.
Yeah, he would have.
You think?
Yeah, because
I've been
he
there.
wants to be him.
Yeah, I've been
not
there.
he doesn't want the
Yeah.
other guy to be him.
Okay.
I think it's still like manipulative. I think it's just less like sex focused.
Interesting.
I mean, even though, yes, like the central plot point of the movie is sex.
Demon STD.
Yeah. Demon hot potato STD.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though that's the central point, I don't think that that's what it is. That wasn't my read on him either. That it was just to like get with her kind of a thing. I think he wanted to. I think he was in love with her, but he had no shot.
I would put it equal parts personally. Like I think he did really want to get with her, but he also thought that he was in love with her.
I mean, I feel like those go hand in hand. Like if I'm in love with
Most
someone,
of the
I'd
time.
love to.
Yeah, that's why I
know.
said it's 50-50. Yeah.
I guess I feel like
But I guess what we were refuting is that it was like creepy, like that it was just purely physical. Like I just want to.
I don't think
Jump your
it
bones.
was creepy. I think it was like a dog begging for food.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I agree. But maybe not a dog humping your leg.
Scott,
Yeah.
I think there was just I watched this with my girlfriend and there was a moment where she said like, oh, what did she say? It was like all the friends are like, oh, they're so glad it's not them. And I was like, you know what? That guy is not. That guy is super upset it's not him.
What did Anu think of this? Being a huge horror fan.
You know what? It really scared her, honestly.
Oh, really?
Like, and then because I told her, I was like, this is just the Reddit snail post.
Uh-huh.
And then she was like, I talked to her a couple days later. She's like, I had nightmares about the snail. Yeah, she loves horror, but we were talking because we watched several of these together. And she was like, I don't know if I have the stomach for it anymore. And I was like, man, that's weird.
You know what's interesting is that, like, I think watching The Conjuring versus watching this movie, The Conjuring scares me more. Like, I would say that is a scarier film. But if you were to, and maybe it's because I am a Christian, but like the idea of the It Follows monster on paper sounds scarier to me than like a demon in a house.
I think that, and maybe we can get into more of this in The Conjuring, but I think the reason that maybe a demon sounds less scary to me, one, I don't think that a demon is acting the way that we watch in The Conjuring.
Sure.
Like,
I
just,
agree,
but it's just trying to be a
let's
spooky
not-
little
let's
guy.
not too bogged down.
For the sake of
Yeah.
argument, assume it is.
But there's something that can be done.
Mhm.
There is something that can be done, and you can rid yourself of this. And there is just no way to rid yourself of this.
Yeah.
This monster, and that's why it's scarier.
I mean, you can just give it to someone else.
You
but
give it to
then
somebody,
it-
but then if
it'll-
they die, it'll come
It
to
just
you.
comes back the
Sure.
chain, you know?
So like you never know if you're safe.
Exactly.
You never know. Like if maybe 6 people down the line and all 6 of those people die, then you're
I
the one.
I
Right.
almost think that the further away from it you get, the scarier it would be, because you
scarier it
have
is.
no gauge.
right.
If you never sleep with someone else, you know it is coming for me, absolutely. So I just need to be on the move. And maybe that's just the lifestyle you'd have to have regardless. But if 30 years pass and it's just like, I have no idea if it's
It
killed
could've gone
everyone
through-
up, and
It could have gone through 6. It could have gone through 600 people. I have no idea how far away it is from me.
exactly.
But that said, I do have one big beef with the movie, with the monster, I think. And that is that I think you would be able to figure it out because it is not coming to you in a way that is advantageous to itself.
Right.
Where like you're
Almost
like
never.
it's like, oh, I'm an old lady in a hospital gown in the middle of this college. Obviously, I'm going to know that is it. Like why?
It's standing out.
Yeah, I'm a giant guy that has to duck to get through your door. Like that doesn't
not,
make sense.
But
to
not all, it's not always a stranger.
but it always stands out.
Not necessarily.
Except for in one case in the movie, like it's like I'm a naked woman that, or I'm a granny in a hospital gown.
Yeah.
Except for in the case where it becomes that
Her
guy's
friend.
mom.
It knocks on the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only time where it's coming in a way that is unexpected.
Yeah, that we see.
That
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
we see.
That's true. But like I feel like it stands out more than it doesn't, and that doesn't
Well,
make sense to me.
And
Like,
it does
what-
weird stuff like stand on the roof.
So
Yeah, like
how-
naked guy on the
it's
roof.
One, it goes like a half a mile an hour. How long did it take for that thing to get on the roof?
I really thought at one point I would love to have just a short film that is from the monster's perspective, that
Yeah.
it's like, God damn it. Like I've been walking this direction for 50 miles and now I have to turn and walk the other direction for another 150
it's interesting
miles.
you bring
Like,
up the roof thing. I remember hearing in an interview with Quentin Tarantino, and someone asked him, this is back when this movie came out, someone asks him like, hey, have you seen any good movies? Like, would you recommend any movies that you've seen this year? And he said It Follows was a great movie. And he said it's like one of the best uses of exposition that he's seen in a film. And he said, my one bit of beef with it is there's a scene where the monster's on the roof and it serves no purpose to the plot except just to freak the audience out, but it doesn't follow its own logic. And I agree with him. I think that
I agree with
was
that
an
100%.
unnecessary aspect of the movie that could have been cut
Also,
out.
I think that was the director,
That said
oh,
that?
really?
the naked dude on the roof.
Was the director?
Yeah, I think that's.
How do you know? Really?
I'm pretty sure.
Where'd you find that out?
I was watching a video earlier.
Oh, that's gross.
That is gross.
I wish I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what that is as gross as is Quentin Tarantino writing himself into movies as the guy that says the N-word all the time?
Yeah.
Or touches women's feet.
Yeah.
Or worse, if you've seen From Dusk Till Dawn.
I have not seen From Dusk Till Dawn, but I think I know the scene you're talking about where he like sucks on toes.
And his character does a lot worse. than
Yeah.
that. He does things he'd be arrested for. And he wrote the movie. So.
I
I-
couldn't stop thinking about the snail post throughout this entire
Really?
movie. And out of
Can you explain for maybe those who don't know what you're talking about what the snail post is?
it's basically just a Reddit guy who's like, hey, would you take, $1 billion like cash, but if you accept, then there's a snail that always knows where you are and is always coming towards you, and if it can touch you, you die.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's like the premise of this movie, except for no money.
Yeah. Just you get to live.
Yeah.
If you pass it on.
Scott, I have a couple questions for you. First, you said that there were plot holes in this movie. I'd like to hear what those are. And two, you said that there were some weird cinematography choices,
Yeah.
and I was curious about that as well.
I would say when I was talking about cinematography, I think there was just one in particular. And it was towards the end before the pool scene. The entire movie hadn't done this yet, but then we get like a shot from the Thing's point of view. It just felt off to me. I'm like,
Okay.
why are we in this perspective now?
I don't know that I even remember that.
It was just walking down a hallway, and it's just their point of view. You can see that, you can feel the camera like shaking a little
Because
bit.
I
back and forth.
think that the worst thing from a camera perspective that a horror can do is put us in the in the point of view of the protagonist or the antagonist.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it just felt weird to me. It felt like a weird choice.
But I don't even know that I remember. I guess I was just I don't know. I don't even remember that.
At least I'm assuming that's what that was. Maybe it was just a weird, unconnected picture of a hallway.
It was probably that. It was
Uh-huh.
probably
Yeah, I'm sure.
you
I'm
think it
sure
was.
what you read it was is what it was.
No, I'm not
Um,
doubting you. I just don't. I'm surprised I don't remember it. I feel like I should because I think that that's a terrible choice.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, what happened with the first girl that died to it? Like, did she just give up?
I think so.
She was just
Yeah.
like, whatever, let it kill me.
I think so.
I think that's
Okay.
exactly what it was.
I mean, yeah, because she calls her parents and like tells them I love you, and it very much seemed like she was giving up and
She was
not
just
trying
tired
to
of running.
flee. I think so. Yeah.
So was that someone else that this dude had slept with?
I think it had to have been.
Yeah, it was.
And then it came back
because
to
he
him.
said I gave it to someone, but they died and it came back to me.
Got it.
What were some of the plot holes for you, Scott?
Man, I don't remember off the top of my head. I really should have. Actually, I think I did write something down. Hold on, let me look at my my phone real quick.
yeah, I don't know what it is. While Scott looks at that, but some movies we watch, I like to take on this. Like Sleepy Hollow, that was for me this month. But then other movies, I just feel like I remember what I wanted to bring up, and I don't feel like I ever. On those movies, I don't feel like I missed what I wanted to talk about. But for some reason, I'm like, I need to write this down because I will not remember to write it. to bring it up.
Okay. These aren't plot holes, but I just wanted to read some of my notes to you guys because I think they're funny as I read them. I said, "What's with that weird phone?"
Oh, the
shell phone.
Yeah,
the
it's like
e-reader.
she's like reading it, but then she uses it later as a flashlight. But also at the same time, like this girl's using landlines with like old school phones. I'm like, what year is
Just
it?
the weirdest way to read Dostoevsky.
Yeah, because the idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys catch? I was going to bring it up actually during the thing, but did you guys catch that this was the second movie in this that quotes Dostoevsky's the Idiot?
They quoted the idiot in the thing. I don't
It's
think I
the-
noticed
it's
that.
the last. It's a paraphrase, but it's the last sentence of the movie.
You know, I tried to do the idiot on audiobook and it's too dense
Yeah.
for me to do an audiobook. I need to like get the physical book and read it.
But yeah, she reads that sentence, and what's his name? Kurt Russell paraphrases that same quote from the Idiot in the thing.
I feel like if I had watched the thing after this, I would have caught that, but I didn't. And so I didn't catch that.
I did watch
it-
this after the thing, and I still caught it.
That's yeah. You're smarter than I am. But sorry, Scott. Tyler brought up her reading the idiot from the
Mhm.
hospital bed at the end of the movie. I liked that scene. I thought that was a cool way to end the movie. But I remember thinking like, that's just the most tone deaf thing to read in front of your friend who has the demon STD
I
coming
think-
to kill her.
To me, I think that was one of my beefs with the movie was like I don't like where it's like you just have a character who's reading a book that has some message that you want to get across, and then you just
Right.
get to let her make some sort of dump with the message you want to get across. I don't like that as a plot device. I actually really hate it.
I
think
agree
it's
with you.
lazy.
I felt the same thing when it happened.
Yeah,
I felt the same.
I think it's really, really lazy.
I kind of liked it a little bit.
I hated it.
Okay.
I thought it was lazy.
It's like, well, just say if you said this better than I could have. So what that guy said, you know, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I said POV ghost before final scene, talking about like the point of view of the thing. I also said how this is like a more logistical funny question. How does it work with the fishing dudes? Like there's the 3 dudes on the boat. She's obviously going to go sleep with them to give herself more time, I guess.
Do you think she did it?
Yeah,
I think she did.
She did.
I think that was the implication. Like her cast was all messed up and everything.
That's a discussion that people have had with this movie is did she do it or not?
I wasn't clear on if she did do it.
I think it is ambiguous. I thought
it was
know if
ambiguous
it's
as well.
necessarily clear.
Because
but for
she
this-
leaves and it's coming back to her.
Uh-huh.
For the sake of this conversation, I just want to have a logistical conversation with you guys.
Can it swim?
No. Well, yeah, sure.
that was that was one of the questions I had.
like, could you just go to an island? I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Does this thing know how to get on an airplane? Is
Right.
the question.
Yeah.
It does. The director answered that in an interview. He said
It swims or it gets on an airplane.
it can get on an airplane,
But the
which is less believable to me than it can swim. I think I would assume it can swim.
The funniest thing in the world to me would be the stewardess coming up and
Yeah.
being like, "Do you want anything to drink?" And just stares.
no, it doesn't know. It's an empty seat, or it's just standing in the aisle or something.
the entity buying an airplane
Oh yeah,
ticket.
because
no one
They
else,
can't see it.
no one can see it. It
can
just
see
walks
Yeah,
in.
it just walks in.
So there's a stewardess. Maybe there's a stewardess that had it. It was like, oh my god.
yeah.
that I want to watch that movie.
I do too.
It follows on a plane.
Yeah.
It follows, but like 50 people removed.
Yeah.
So like she can see it, and she's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to be that
Every
guy.
person on this plane joins the Mile High Club.
Keep passing it to the other person.
No,
It's just
so
hot potato.
let's say she did sleep with the 3 fishermen,
Uh-huh.
and it was like this like orgy situation.
Yeah.
Is it transferred to the first person?
I think the first person.
The first person.
And like, does it have to be, and I don't know if this needs flagged or not, like penile vaginal intercourse?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if a different like version of sex
Does
happened,
it have
would
to
that
be-
transfer?
You don't think
Penetrative?
P2P would work?
Like, I just don't know. Like,
I think
what are the logistics of this
So, like,
demon transfer?
I think that's
Like
Like,
part-
these are the things I was thinking about and laughing
I think
at. during the
no,
movie.
I get it.
So,
I think that's
like
part,
are Mormons safe?
right.
Yeah.
I think that's
Like-
part of the fear is that it's like you just have to like even if you don't want to do this, you have to do it
So,
to
like,
get rid of.
If
But,
you're
like,
gay, you're
also,
100% safe.
It has to be, I'm assuming, some
Well-
kind of like physical intercourse.
I think probably the opposite. I think
like
You get
'cause-
punished even more.
so did
But
like
you're
the
never
thing
going to
go,
get it.
Did the thing go and just kill the first fisherman and leave the other 2, or did it kill all 3?
We don't know.
It probably killed just the first one because
don't-
that's all it cares about.
Yeah, but technically, if it's like an orgy, they all slept together.
But
But
it's just the first
who
one.
first.
So like if
and I
never
doubt
mind,
it
I'm not
was
gonna
an
say it.
orgy. But
So you think she
On
just
this
went up
little
on
raft.
that? You think she just went up on that boat and slept with one?
Yeah, you think-
while the other 2
you
were
think they
just
just
sitting
watched?
there?
I think all of this needs to be flagged. We're gonna have to mark this episode as explicit.
So all that being said, I thought there was just so much ridiculousness in the
sorry.
plot itself.
Question:
Yeah.
Where does this land in the appropriate age range of Sleepy Hollow? Is like 12 to 14. Where is it followed?
probably like
Con-
16 to 17.
Considering that this
Okay.
demon is obsessed with naked boobs, like every single half of the time, it's an undressed woman.
It's a 17-year-old. Yeah, and it's a 17-year-old boy for sure.
And
That's
I
who
don't-
this target.
I don't
demo is.
Oh, I
understand.
see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I don't understand like so many scary movies like lean into nudity. Like, why is that a thing?
I think
it's
there's like this like I feel like there's this maybe
think
this taboo around it, and that is maybe frightening. But I don't know.
I think that
I-
nudity in this film is used differently than it is in Friday the 13th
I agree. Yeah, that was
or any
yeah,
of the slasher films from the 80s.
I completely agree. Because
Yeah,
like
most of
this
the time it's
or
like a victim that's like doing something. I realize it's different, but I'm
Uh-huh.
saying it's still like occurring in this genre. And I'm just wondering, like,
Mhm.
is there like a like, you know, like connection on like, you know, when you see something like that, you're more adept to becoming scared because you're thinking about something different, or like
I would say there are two things with it. One is that whenever we see nudity, it is going to feel awkward. Like that's just going to make people in America feel awkward. Like if you're sitting in a movie theater or you're sitting in front of your TV with your wife or you're sitting with a group of friends, you see nudity, it's going to make you have a feeling immediately of being uncomfortable because you know that you have or should have a reaction to this that you now need to like hide or laugh about or like diffuse with everyone else in the room who is probably you assume is having in that same instant that same subconscious reaction. So using nudity in horror movies does set your audience on edge in a specific way
Of
at a
just, like,
specific
being
time
uncomfortable.
of being uncomfortable, and so you can use it as a tool in that sense. But I also think what's happening here is I agree with Zach. I think that like it's being applied here in a way that's different from like something like Friday the 13th or slasher movies. That was way more about using sex appeal to sell horror movies because people who are likely to go see horror movies are typically younger males. And you can sell that movie better if there's a hot girl who's going to have her top off. I don't think that's what's happening in this movie. I think they're using nudity in an artistic way, not in like a we're trying to just get money kind of a way.
But that said, if I was worried about this and I was like, okay, naked girl, I'm running away.
Yeah, I'm not saying, I'm not arguing for why the internal logic of the movie is good. I'm arguing for why they included
Yeah.
those scenes
I
in
think-
the production of the movie.
I agree. I think it's more unsettling for us, but I think as far as plot holes, that's the one that I
Yeah,
can.
sure.
That's the only one that I can think of.
Yeah,
it's like, why
that's
is
fair.
it?
Because it's like a pretty
doing this.
intelligent
Wait,
entity.
I'm sorry. What's the plot hole here?
As far as
It
like,
picks really bad things.
it's trying to get to you, and it is not blending in a way that
I
it
see
could
what you
have.
mean. Sure.
Yeah.
So like that is what I would think is a plot hole. Where like I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but at the end in the pool season, that's her dad.
Yes.
Yes.
And he's out of the picture. And
That
so
is-
like I'd be like, oh, that's not my dad. You know, if I was this girl.
Yeah.
Like it's very obvious that this is it
I
following me.
yeah.
the way that I can maybe make sense of this, and I'm not like, I don't feel very confident in this argument. I'm more so playing devil's advocate. I think that maybe you could try to make the case that the monster enjoys scaring the victim.
And that's
And-
what the guy said to her at the beginning of the movie. He said, it can look like anyone. Sometimes I think it looks like the people close to you just to mess with you.
Yeah.
Like he
I-
said that in the very, like in his, like, here are the rules of it.
That's true. And I guess if she had, and this was what I was reading some, is people infer from that line and from the fact that it became her dad was that he was abusive.
Yeah.
Or something was that like she has some trauma associated with her dad and that would be particularly frightening to her. But I guess if it was just trying to get at her, that I think is the worst way to do it.
Because
Sure, but it's already at her. Now it's trying to like toy with her.
Yeah.
because I to that point as well, and I don't know if this is ever even hinted at in the movie. I only read it because I was reading, trying to do some research in the movie, or maybe I read it picked it up in one of the interviews. But I believe that the very first person that we see it embody is supposed to be the dates that dude, his mom.
I didn't get that.
I don't think there's any way for us to. Like, I don't think the movie reveals that.
We
but
meet her later.
Oh, you're right. We do. So maybe
If it's the same actress,
I
would
don't
say
think-
I
yes,
think
but
it is.
I just don't think it was just so far apart
it is. Yeah.
that I don't think I was thinking about that.
I had no idea, but more so just to back up the point that, like, I think that some of these characters that we see it embody are characters that, or they're people that our characters do know and have relationships with.
I guess, but like one of them was like, I was looking at this, like the tall guy was like,
Yeah.
apparently he was like the tallest guy from some state. I forget. It was like based off of some real guy
Uh-huh.
that this person wouldn't have known.
Oh, I mean, and I do think that there are times where, like, it's just for the sake of the audience,
Yeah,
unsettling.
And that's where I feel like I'm
characters.
picking nits where it's like, this is to scare the audience.
Yeah.
And this is, and like movies are made for the audience. And I think
Right.
in this case, I can be like, this, it's fine that this is to scare me. And it doesn't necessarily make sense.
It's almost the same thing. Maybe I'll wait for The Conjuring, but like I feel like The Conjuring does something similar to where it's just like if you're trying to think of the most effective way for the demon to accomplish its goal, it wouldn't be this way. But this makes for a scarier and more enjoyable movie experience.
And I think I'm going to talk about this probably next week as well. Is
Yeah.
that I don't think that this is how it would work.
Right.
This
for
doesn't
sure,
make sense.
for sure.
Well, and I'm going to give some. I'm going to play devil's advocate for it right now for the creature.
You're going to defend its choices.
You're pro creature.
I'm pro creature right now.
Well, we're getting political.
I know, right? No, I mean, if I'm this, creature that can only travel a certain speed, kind of a thing, I don't know that trying to be clandestine is always going to be super effective. I think just as an effective, as we kind of see in this movie, just as an effective means of attack is to like freak the person out, because humans have a fight or flight response, and usually flight, oftentimes for most living creatures, ends up into a room with only one exit. That's just what we always tend to back ourselves into a corner, and all living creatures do tend to back themselves into a corner when they're scared.
Uh-huh.
And so like to be like really like creepy, even though like, yeah, like it's a bad tactic for sneaking up on someone, it's probably a really good tactic that this creature has developed. And that's to make people freaked out, and they're going to make stupid decisions.
And that, I think that's also maybe one of the things that kind of plays into the unsettling or unexplained nature of it, is like, is it doing this because it likes it? Is it doing this
Right.
because it's strategic? And
Right.
all have these questions.
Yeah.
And you don't know. Like,
You don't know.
You end the movie and you have no idea.
Yeah, you have no idea if this is like zombies' instinctual drive for brains, or if this is a sadistic, well thought out, strategized plan of attack.
Yeah, or even the question that I had that I think was the most pressing question is like, what if it gets all the way back to the end of the chain?
Right.
What
What
happens?
happens? Yeah, I
And
thought
I
about
have
that
no
too.
idea. And all of it is just, all of it serves to be just a little bit more unsettling.
I think
I agree.
a weirder question than that is, how did it start?
Yeah, no, I had that question as well.
Totally.
Like, how did this start? What happens if we get back to the beginning? Is the first person dead? And what happens if the person that it's going after is dead? I guess it just goes back. I don't know. All of it was like, just, I don't know. All of it, all of the mystery, all of the unanswered questions is what makes this more effective, I think, to me personally, as a horror where I just don't know.
Yeah.
I'm curious, were there any jump scares in this movie that did get
I don't
you
think there were
guys?
jump scares that got me. I think it was the moments that really got me was these like really tight, where it's like, I'm in a house
Mhm.
and there's nowhere to go.
Yep.
Like those made me very tense.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But I don't think there were any jumps that got me.
I think I agree.
There was one this time around. It was right after the scene that Tyler mentioned earlier, when the brick goes through the window and the dude runs upstairs, and then the main girl's walking through the house and like kind of turns, looks in the kitchen, and you see it right there. I had completely forgotten about that scene. But the first time I watched this movie, the tall dude got me really good. That really freaked me out.
He's really unsettling.
When he just kind of comes, he like materializes out of the shadow.
Yeah.
And then walks through.
Right into the room.
And I think
that-
there's really something about having not everybody be able to see it.
Oh, yeah.
Because you are empathizing with the main character and it's real to you, but to have everybody else not necessarily believe you. And I think that was why I saw Smile. And I think when that becomes available, that'll probably be a pick that I make, because I think that is like to have like this thing that is real to you, whether or not necessarily it's real to us, it's real as the audience.
Yeah.
Is so much more scarier that they can't see it and they don't know what's going on. And then you have this questioning of, is this real? Should I just ignore this? Or is this going to kill me if I do ignore it? I think all of that serves to make it just a little bit more frightening.
No, I agree. And I mean, Jake, I really think I'm going to think about pretty much every horror movie from now on from the lens that you've shared about that, like that it's, information and resolution, or like the two enemies or the ways to kill fear. Like that's super interesting. And I really do think you have actually talked me up on this movie quite a bit. So thanks.
I think I talked myself
thanks,
up on
Jake.
this movie as soon as I watched it, and I was like, it's not a movie I would pick, but I'm really thinking about it. And I've been thinking about it more, and I've been thinking about how it relates to other horror movies, because I think what Spooktober has done for me, because I don't like horror movies, and I've been trying to figure out why. Because it's not like I hate horror. Like there are horror video games that I love. Like I don't know if you guys have heard of Alan Wake, but it's one of my favorite games, and it's a survival horror game. And like it's not that I hate horror. It's that there are like whatever modern popular horror is kind of bugs me. And so when there's a movie that makes me think, I don't know, it just, I've been thinking about this movie in particular a lot, comparing it to other movies we've done.
You have not succeeded in talking me up.
I didn't think I would.
Yeah.
Is there
But-
anything anyone could have done to talk you up on this movie, Scott?
I don't know if you could have like revealed something to me that would have made it scary. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Scott's the opposite of what Jake said. More information
yeah,
is
that's always going to
There's just nothing
What's-
scary about like this thing to me. Like if
What's
I had to
very-
choose any of the Spooktober picks up to this point that I had to live in that world, this would probably be my choice.
you're
Scott,
insane.
you could never sleep.
That's an insane thing.
You
to
could
say.
never sleep anywhere.
Why?
Like
or just
because
I don't have
you,
it.
you're
I'm
never
just living in this
But
world.
if you
Okay,
get it, living in this. Oh yeah, I would choose to live in The Conjuring if I didn't have a demon infesting my house.
yeah, or the thing where the thing just dies in Antarctica. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
I would
Does
live in
it?
the thing if I lived in California and I wasn't in Antarctica. What are you saying?
Does it die in Antarctica?
yes.
How do you know? You never see that.
How do you?
It has just as much closure as this movie.
Wow. What do you guys say we put this one to bed?
All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Zach, you're up first.
I'm gonna give this 7.7. Savior Sims.
That's way lower than I thought you were going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like a work of art, like the best film I've ever seen, but I like it. I think it's solid.
I'm going to give this 6.8. Not scary movies. Jake.
I'm gonna give this 7.2 naked directors on the roof.
I'm going to give this
Tyler.
7.5 demonic STDs.
All right, this comes out to a 73%. Once again, Rotten Tomatoes give this a 95%. IMDb gave it a 6.8, and it comes out to a 73%, which makes it movie number 94 out of 150.
All right.
You know what? It's about where I expected it to be, and it was, I think, a more interesting conversation than maybe most of the Spooktober picks we're gonna have.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I was surprised at how low you all put it with how high you guys talked about it.
I think that there was just interesting things to talk about, and not necessarily that means that I didn't love the movie. I wouldn't watch it again. Like I'd seen it before, and I wouldn't watch it again unless I had to. But I think it's interesting to talk about.
All right. We're going to Tyler. We're going to you next week.
Yeah. So next week, we are doing The Conjuring.
We talked about The Conjuring for about 20 of these 50 minutes.
A good part of this.
Yeah, like 5.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what comes up
It's-
next week.
It's kind of hard not to compare the Spooktober picks to each other.
Sure, because
You
we
know,
watch
yeah.
them in so much proximity.
Well, and just because we're sticking to one genre,
Yeah.
you know, so it'd be like if we did a comedy month,
We're not,
it'd be hard not to compare the funny movies to each other.
Totally.
but
Yeah.
we're not usually comparing Raging Bull to Fast and Furious 6.
I do every day.
Correct. I think it's also easy, and we've done it too, like comparing to past Spooktober picks too.
Yeah, definitely.
Like
Yeah.
when we go into Conjuring, I feel like there's going to be a lot of perhaps reference to like Amityville Horror
Sure.
because it's
Yeah.
the same movie.
Mhm.
All right.
All right.
Zach, do you have any final thoughts to say about that?
Yeah, I'm happy that I finally was able to enjoy the
Dude, I think this episode's just gonna be effed up.
Oh, we're muted. Do you know what I forgot to do in that episode was plug the giveaway. Next episode.
We'll get on
It's
the
all right.
next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll do it for Patreon right now.
It's got spooky ghosties and spooky bats on it.
I thought we did plug it in the last step.
I think we did in the first one, not this one.
Maybe.
Maybe not. But if you guys want it, it's got a straw.
It's got a straw.
And this straw, it's neither paper nor will kill turtles. It's best of both worlds.
What is it? Glass?
I think it's glass. That sounds like glass.
Yeah, I think it's
flick it.
glass.
Hold on,
Wow,
hold
glass
on.
straw.
Yeah,
You guys hear that glass?
I think that's glass.
There you go.
All right, Patreon. Thank you guys. We appreciate you.